Can you hear me? Just let me know if you can put in. Good. You guys can hear me. We're good to go there. All right. So basically how this is going to work, I have slides. I'm going to go through the slides for this. I've done this live like in Facebook before, and if there's any issues there, it makes for a pretty bad webinar when you're sitting and waiting for it to load. So I basically just went through and did screenshots of every step, and I can show you that. If you do have questions though that require me going live, I can still do that. We're just gonna do it a little bit differently, just to make sure there's no technical issues. And then the other fun thing I want to just say is we're gonna do these throughout the year. This way we can have a little bit more fun and kind of do different topics. So if there's topics you want to see specifically, let me know. I have a list of ones that I plan on doing, but we're gonna try and at least do one every month. So I'm really looking forward to that. In terms of questions, because I see some people have already answered them, there's a chat feature. That's actually much better for me to monitor than the question box, just from a convenience standpoint. So if any questions you have, if you can put them in the chat box instead of the Q&A, that'd make my life a lot easier. So please put it in the Q&A instead of, or sorry, put it in the chat instead of the Q&A, and then we'll jump in and go from there. Otherwise, we'll jump right in. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Make sure I pick the right one. That would be helpful. Okay, so we'll go live here. So again, if we can just confirm that you guys can see the screen, that would be great for me. And then we'll go from there. You can see it. We're good. All right, all right, all right. We're gonna get started. So this one is on Facebook Ad Targeting 101. Basically, I want to walk you through the process of targeting your ads the right way, because I know this is a question we get quite a bit, is like how to properly target. So we're gonna go through the basics of targeting and then touch on a little bit of the more like custom audience advanced stuff as well. Question, any chance you will send us this? Yes, so we will actually take this recording and we're gonna send it out to everyone who is registered. And then on top of that, I will probably post it in the Wheelhouse and on YouTube. So it will just be out there. The advantage of being live, of course, is if you have any questions directly, you're gonna get a better answer. Before we get into it though, I just wanna make sure everyone knows, don't boost your ads. So actually, just out of curiosity, how many people here who are running ads just click boost post? Like for most of you, how is that done? A few, okay, some. Okay, so stop. The only advantage of boosting post is actually that what you're doing is it's quicker. When you do in the back end, you have way more powerful. Like the example we like to do is like boosting a post is like riding a bike, and then using the ads manager and everything you can do would be like driving an F1 car. Like it's that big of a difference from what you can do from one to the other. Now there's some reasons you can still use it because you don't need all those capabilities sometimes. So I'm just not a fan of boosting. It's not worth it, mainly because you can't optimize the same way and not all the targeting options are available. So first thing I want to say, I know most of you are in Canada. We do have some from the US here. So I did want to quickly touch on the special ad category. So when you're building an ad, there's this little checkbox you guys can see here that says, I'm creating a campaign for ads in a special ad category. And that is essentially ads related to credit, employment, or housing, which obviously you guys are all related to housing. Now, the nice part of being in Canada, which is I know where most of you are, is that it doesn't apply. This is only for ads in the US. So if you are on this and you are in the US, I believe I looked quickly and just judging by names, we're about 80 to 90% Canadian on this webinar. It doesn't apply to you. So if you're in Canada, you don't have to check this at all. You can just ignore that it exists and keep going with your ads. If you're on a town that's near the border and you're targeting at all overlaps into the US, just like even a little bit of a radius, which can show you an actual example, then you would get caught in this because technically it's a housing ad that's being shown in the US. I would just move that radius a little bit over so it doesn't overlap the border at all. If you do have to use it, basically what they're saying is anything related to housing, you can't do any of the things they mentioned here. So age, gender, detailed targeting, most of them aren't there. And you basically lose the majority of the features. But you can still run like a lead magnet that's not about a house. So you can do like a guide on how to prepare your home for sale. That's not caught up in that targeting. Now it still might get disapproved by Facebook because they don't, like their algorithm still thinks it might be a home for sale. So in that case, you just have to appeal a couple times. One of the ways, and I don't mean around like advertising a house that way, but if you're ever getting caught on the custom audience thing because of like you're advertising a guide on how to prepare your home for sale and like the terms home for sale is triggering the disapproval. The way around that is you run an ad first that's just like a general ad that you know people would engage with, like do like a video about the community, and then you target anyone who watched like 3 seconds of the video with your guide on how to prepare your home for sale, because you can run an ad to a custom audience, and I'll show you how to do that. But yeah, you don't do it still. Like that's the only way around the like targeting restrictions, but don't do that for home for sale, because if you get caught, you will automatically basically lose your ability to advertise, and Facebook won't look well on you. Plus then there's obviously the other issues around that. But for running something that's not really a house, if it keeps getting caught in that disapproval process, even though it shouldn't, because sometimes that just happens, custom audiences is your way around that. Okay, so first, when you're building your ad, you come down here. Campaign budget optimization is not technically a targeting thing, but it can affect targeting. And the main reason for that is that before, when you run an ad, it starts like you at your campaign level, your budget was at the ad set level, which is like who are you targeting? So if you were targeting everyone in your town, the old minimum budgeted was $5 a day. Now they brought that down. It'd be like $5 a day to this audience. If you wanted to run that ad also to people who've been to your website, that's another $5 a day. So you generally, the more groups of people you targeted, the more expensive your ads got. When you choose campaign budget optimization, it moves the budget to the campaign level and then just spreads it out to however many audiences you choose. So now instead of having to do $5 a day per audience, you could do $5 a day spread across 10 audiences if you want. And Facebook will optimize for which one they think is going to get the best result at any time. So it does open up a little bit of the possible to be really creative with a lot of different audiences and some ads that are there. For most people in real estate, you're not going to do a ton of different audiences, especially early on. So don't worry too much about this right now. This is more for like what I'll call phase 2 for a lot of you, which is phase 1 is just like getting comfortable with the ads manager, getting some results. And then when you want to take it up a notch, just start targeting a lot of different segments with the same ad and tracking which one's getting you better results. That's when you get into more of the campaign budget optimization stuff. Like I would say for our clients, maybe only 20% of them are we actually doing like true campaign budget optimization stuff, because for a lot of them, they're not there yet for what makes sense. So when you're starting to build your ad, you're going to see this piece here, which is the default is create a new audience. So that's just where we come in and we build the audience that we want to go after. If you've ever built an ad before, you can see right next to it, it says use saved audience. So when we go through and build an audience of people we're targeting, we can just click save and say like sellers Toronto. And now instead of having to build the audience every time, we can just come and save that and then select it each time we go. Question is, would you recommend using lifetime budget? It just depends on the situation. We can go through that later in the questions. Like at the end, we have a little bit more Q&A, but honestly, it doesn't make much of a difference, to be honest. So saved audience, if you're using a custom audience, it would be people who've been to your website, engaging with your page, stuff like that. That's the custom audience part. And then you can also exclude custom audiences, which I actually like to do. So for instance, you could run ads that exclude people who have opted in before. You could run ads that exclude your database and different things like that. Question, can you target by postal code? Yes, and I will show you how very, very shortly. It's just in the next section. One thing I want to bring your attention to on the right side is the potential reach piece there. And the potential reach piece that we're looking at is That's how many people with the current targeting that you've picked will see your ad. It's not a perfect system. The estimated daily results, I actually just ignore because it's not really ever accurate. The audience size is just like a great like barometer of how many people is that ad targeting, but it's not perfect. So for example, you might make one change and it'll drop the audience like 90%, but you know there's more people than that. So once in a while, if just using a little bit of critical thinking and knowing the area, you can know that sometimes it's glitchy. So it's not perfect, but it gives you, generally speaking, for the most part, a really good indication in terms of the interest you're picking. And one of the reasons I like to bring this up is if, like, for instance, you were ever targeting real estate agents, just as a good like example. If you go by job titles and say like, okay, I want to target real estate agents by job title, it's only going to show about 20 to 24,000 agents in Canada, which there's 130,000. So it's not accurate in that sense. So you got to change it, and I'll show you actually how to target that a little bit better. So the next part, which is my favorite. So now we're going to show you kind of like geographically how to target your ad. And there's a ton of options. And this is actually, to me, the most important part of targeting for most people in terms of like the ways you can leverage it. Because one of the secrets that we do is we actually do very minimal targeting the majority of our ads. Like over 90% of the ads we place are just location based with almost nothing else. And I'll explain why as we're going through that section. But the first thing when you're picking location, you want to look at this drop down above the map. You can go everyone in this location, people who live in this location, recently in or traveling. So everyone is exactly what it sounds like. It's just everybody who physically has a device connected to Facebook that goes into that area. So they'll be tagged. So for instance, if you're like in the Aurora, Newmarket area, if you guys know that place, or so basically if you're not in anywhere that's like a huge commuter area with like big highways going through, there's an airport, you can just leave it on everyone because generally like some of those towns, it's only those people who are there. Now, let's use Mississauga as an example. They have that huge airport, Pearson there. And the problem targeting Mississauga with everyone in it is that includes everybody passing through. And if it's a seller ad, majority of people that would be passing through there, because there's so many, do not even own a home or live in Mississauga. So a lot would be coming from outside. So to make sure your ad spend's being more effective, you would switch to people who live in this location. And now they're going to run that ad to Mississauga, but only to people who actually live in Mississauga. So your seller ad will actually go to people who are looking at selling. So that's where you want to go from that section. People recently in, it's just people passing through. And then it's not that much different than everyone in this location. And then the other one is people traveling in this location. For the majority of you, you don't have to use that. What that is would be like, I believe the number is 200 kilometers, but anyone who's in our area, but their home is 200 kilometers away. So it sounds great for people doing like recreational and cottages, but that really depends on where those people come from. So like for the instance, if you're selling cottages in Muskoka, most of those cottages are within 200 kilometers of Toronto. Like it's normally in like, we have 160, I believe, to like 190 range where a lot of them are. So you don't get caught into that people traveling. So what we like to do, say we're doing like that recreational market, we go with people recently in this location. So we might target the long weekends when we know a lot of people are coming up, people recently in this location during long weekends, and then we'll target the ad that way. One of the questions, can target buyers driving around an area? Yeah, so basically if you do everyone in this location, it's basically just anyone who comes through that area. They're going to see the ad. So I would just make sure you have that turned on. I mean, you can't specifically say, I only want people driving through this area and that's it. And don't, like, it's a little bit different, but I would just say, for most of you, you can generally leave on everyone in this location, unless you live somewhere where there's just a ton of people who are constantly either flying in and out or a major highway coming through. That would not do it. But even highways, I find it's still okay to keep it on because you can have that appeal of, your commute would be a lot shorter if you lived here. Whereas flying, it's a little bit different because you're not going to have that same ability all the time. But that's kind of a personal decision you can make. But personally, if I was in Mississauga and when our clients that we've had in Mississauga, we generally switch to just people who live here when we're doing seller-based ads. So in terms of the actual map, The couple different ways you can do, you can do postal code, but when we say postal code, that means the first 3 digits only. So you can't do like as specific as like the final 3 numbers. It's just the first 3 numbers. And so depending on your location is how much that actually matters. So you could potentially, like in Aurora, just as an easy example, which is L4G, it's not as, there's no different than just typing in Aurora because the entire town is L4G. Now, if you go downtown into like the city, there's so many different postal codes that are like the first so many different variations of 3 digits that you can get a lot more specific. Whereas the smaller the towns, not as big of a deal. So it's just personal choice. You can do it that way. You can also just type in the name of a town like I've done here with Newmarket. When you type in the name of a town, so in this case, Newmarket, Ontario, it defaults to, I believe, a 25-mile radius. And if you're doing a radius, the smallest you can get it down to is a 10-mile radius around the town. Now, where you see 10 miles here with a little drop-down arrow, if you clicked on that, and there's a screenshot, so I can't click on it, one of the options is current city only. And so what that would do is instead of doing a 10-mile radius around Newmarket, it would run the ad only to Newmarket. If that makes sense. Now, here's where we can start doing some other stuff. So for instance, if we were to say do a 10-mile radius around Newmarket, but for some reason we didn't want anyone in L4G to see the ad, we can actually click on L4G and exclude that. So you could run the ad to this area, but with that one section not being shown the ad. There's some reasons you might want to do that, like say that area was all like condos, and you were just specifically targeting homeowners instead of condos. Like there could be different reasons you might want to do that, but that's just one of the options. And I'll show you how we generally actually use it, which is a little bit kind of where I actually do it. So here's what we do is like a great thing that we love doing. On the left here, you see, you can actually just type in an address. And when you go address instead of city, instead of having a 10-mile radius being the lowest, it goes down to 1 mile. And we love that because now you can get so specific with the ad you're targeting because you're going down to such a small area. Now, again, in the city, like if you're downtown Toronto as an example, the first use of a postal code is probably better than a 1 mile radius because a 1 mile radius downtown is a huge area where it might actually be smaller if you did like N5V, for example. So you have to look at where you are, which one makes most sense. But you can go down to a 1 mile radius. And now in that 1 mile radius, you can run the ad to just people who live in that 1 mile radius, hypothetically. Now, where I really like it, if you look at the bottom right of the map, there's an option called drop pin. So what we like to do is like, say, especially if you're doing like new construction, they might not have an address yet that you can just type in. So you can just go to where it is on the map, drop the pin anywhere you want, and then go down to a 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 mile, however much you want. But you can drop that pin anywhere you want. Now, the cool thing that I like to do is drop a pin and then put another pin just outside, as you can see on the right, and then exclude that. And now I can start kind of even more deciding where my ad gets shown and who's actually seeing it. So for instance, one of the use cases we use for this is like a client has a farm area that doesn't quite fit in to that 1 mile, but doesn't want the ads shown out of it. What we'll do is we'll drop a pin in the middle of the farm area, but the 1 mile radius goes around that too much. Then we'll drop further pins on the outside that then restrict the ads to just their farm area, or we can pair it with like a mail drop. So if they're doing a mail drop, we'll actually do something that's like, hey, you're gonna see this in your inbox coming up, and you can now contact me through this ad, but this is going to be in your mailbox any day. And the reason you want to hold it up is so that they see it, they recognize it, and they want to go forward. So some nice things you do there. And then if you really want to have some fun with it, this is how we target buildings. So we'll do 4 all around it, and we'll just keep restricting it tighter and tighter until we get down to that one building that we want. So as an example, I even know some of you are here because I can see the analytics. I think it's like, of the, I don't know how many people we have on right now. Okay, so I'd say about 10% of the people on this webinar right now are here because of an ad I placed yesterday at a conference center I was speaking at, and it only ran to people at the conference center because I knew like my potential clients are going to be in that building, so I'm targeting that building during that day. From a real estate perspective, there's a few different ways you can go about this. So if you're at the conference, you actually heard this part yesterday a little bit, but like I used to coach basketball in Aurora, and what I used to do on game days is I would target the gym and just the gym for game days with my face and logo, so that parents, when they're on their phone, like before timeouts, halftime, even sometimes during the game, which isn't ideal, but hey, they go on the phone, they see my photo, they see the logo, and they're like, oh, he's in real estate. Then they come up to me after the game being like, hey, you're in real estate. It's funny coincidence. I just saw that on Facebook. How's the market doing? And then it starts that conversation. So you can now like leverage it. So like if you know you're going to the same grocery store every week, run an ad to the grocery store to target people who are there with an ad. So like now they might recognize you and stop you and have that conversation. It's that easy way to not be too imposing and not be that like commission breath, and you're actually giving them that ability to come and talk to you. So anywhere you go a lot, like if you go to the same gym a lot, especially one that are like group classes, that's a great way to do it, especially at gyms, because people are on their phone like between sets a lot. It's such an easy way to then to be like, wait, that's that person, they're in real estate, and then they can go and actually just have a conversation with you. So it can help your prospecting. Same with like door knocking, cold calling, run ads to that area you're doing it to support what you're doing it. Otherwise, if you target condo buildings, we do this for a client right now where they have 8 specific condo buildings they're targeting, and each ad is run to that condo building with an ad being like, do you live at X condo? Click here to get a list, or like find out what your home, or like the X condo price report, which details what the prices have been lately in your condo building. So then you can make it so specific to the people there. Another easy thing to do, if you ever have a client, you want to make sure they see your ad every time so they always can tell, you can just target their house with an ad. You know where they work, you can also target their office with an ad, and then they're just always seeing it, so it looks like your ads are everywhere, and really it's basically just being served to them. And I would also use that for like listing presentations. Target the house you're going on a listing presentation at with like seller testimonial videos, and now you'll be able to get that to go to them pretty easily. But there's a lot of really creative ways that you can use exclusions in these really specific ads. So just think about like where you're going generally, where you're going to be, and how you could use these ads. Because like, for instance, yesterday, when I ran that ad to the conference center, I set the budget at $100. I actually only spent $1.17. And 100 people saw the ad. I mean, I think there was a little bit more than 100 people at the event, but I spent $1.17 and had 100 of my ideal clients see the ad. And for instance, so $1.17, we got like an extra, I can't remember exactly how many people signed up for this webinar, but it was cheap and easy. So those things, they don't cost a lot of money, but they can be really effective. So like the metrics don't look great because like, hey, you ran an ad and you only had 100 people see it, which on Facebook is like a terrible ad, but who are those 100 people? And in this situation, that works really well. You said something. Teresa's here because she saw it. So she was here. So like this is the type of thing that generally works. So think about how you can use this in your ads. Gary's asking how we optimize a post. We'll do that probably in like a future webinar. This is more just around the targeting side, unless you have more clarity on what you mean by optimizing the post. If you're talking about like how you structure like with the copy and the imagery stuff or videos, then that would actually be a separate webinar. And it doesn't, so this is another one just to know, is you don't have to just have like pins in one area. You can spread them out. So for example, if anyone knows our client Heather Beauchesne in Barrie, she does a lot of military. So sometimes what we'll do for her during the season when all the military members are being posted across Canada, we'll go and we'll actually drop pins on the different bases throughout Canada saying, have you been posted to CFB Borden? Click here to download your guide to moving to Borden. Now, and those are only on the military bases. So only people on the different military bases, and those are the ones who might get moved, are actually going to see that ad. So it does become really effective that way. Again, knowing where they're going to be. Or if you sell cottages, the Cottage Life show in Toronto, go drop pins on stuff like that. Or like you could do like a pin at the Cottage Life show, you could do a pin in Muskoka, you could do a pin at Weber's, a lot of people going up there obviously and stop. So think of like, again, where are people going to be and run the ad to it? Because almost everyone has Facebook on their phone, and the second their phone goes through these areas, they're tagged, and now you can run them an So before I go on to the next section, do we have any questions about the location side of targeting? I'll just give you guys like 10, 15 seconds. Just let me know if you have any more questions about the location side of targeting before I move on to the age, gender, and language section. We're good. All right. How effective is targeting by street? I mean, like you want to target one street specifically, like strip, or do you mean like putting in an address? It's like if you just put in the address, it goes down to a 1 mile. If you're doing like your street and you just want like people on that one like street, you'd have to do a lot of exclusions. It works. It just depends on how many people are in the audience. Like that's at the end of the day, like Facebook generally wants there to be 1,000 people in an audience before they'll like run the ad efficiently. So it depends like when you're going targeting specifically. And then of course, Teresa, target different condos with the same ad. You can, but one of the advantages of doing that hyper target is doing an ad specific to them. So like if you just said like how to sell your condo and then ran it to 10 different condos, what would be actually more effective is to duplicate the ad every time and put the name in for each one. So you're doing the work of targeting that one condo. So then just create an ad for it. And then the next specific condo, take the name of that condo and just replace it in that ad. So each one has a name. Because if someone sees the name of their condo, it's a way more effective ad than if it was just a condo as opposed to like zip condo. So we prefer to be as specific as possible in the ad because that will help people want to respond to it way more. So you can target different condos with the same ad. My preference would be if you're going to target and do the work of setting up these audiences to one condo at a time, at least do its own ad. Next up, okay, so age. It just depends on your ad. So you have to look at your area. Who are the buyers? Like what age do they start buying on? Because people who might buy in like Belleville are going to buy earlier than downtown Toronto just because prices are so different. They could afford earlier in a Belleville than they could in Toronto, or they could afford a home generally like in Ottawa before they could afford one in Toronto. So you just have to look at your thoughts. So generally what I do is I look at like, hey, who have I been working with? When do they start buying? And on the buying side, I'll generally start my ads 2 years younger than when, because some people are going to be in that initial phase of thinking about it and getting approved for mortgages. And I want to get them in then so I can start talking to them. I want to get them before they start looking at houses. So I will generally go 2 years before they start buying. So if, say we know like most people aren't going to buy until they're 28, my ads will start at 26. And if I know they're going to start buying at 28, my seller ads will start at 30. Because you need people to have time in their home to do it. But again, you have to know your area and what are the numbers in your area. So just that's the only thing with age. And then like if you're getting into things like this is for, you know, baby boomers who are going to downsize, then obviously you're going to raise that age up. So it's just you need to know for your ad what is the likely person. In terms of gender, we actually will almost, I believe 99.9% of the ads we do are just set to all. We don't touch gender. Generally what we found is about 60% of your leads will be women on average, but the cost per lead ends up being the same. So we haven't really found. So the only time we would say like run it only to women is if you have like a really specific niche, like you want to specifically target working moms. As an example, you're going to target women, but even then, maybe you target all men and women because maybe like their spouse or friend will tag them in it. But generally speaking, we don't touch gender. We just leave that to all, and that works pretty well for us. We've never had to do it any other way. On the languages front, we don't touch that either. There's better ways to target different languages than just typing in language. So you can, like if you speak another language, you certainly can use it, but when we get into like the interest-based targeting, I'll show you the better way to actually do it. But if you do want to run an ad in another language, like if you speak Spanish, you want to run an ad in Spanish or Tamil or anything like that, you could just put that in and it'll automatically go to Time of day to post and content schedule, not, okay, so that would actually just be a topic for another webinar. So like time of day to post, I personally just ignore time of day to post because what I've found is everyone's studying like when's the best time to post, and that's when everybody posts. And then that means there's also way more competition at that time. So I just post. Good content rises above anyways. And then just not too real estate cheesy, just look at what you're posting, and if you would not enjoy that post in your feed if it wasn't yours, then don't post it. Only post things that you personally would also like to see. So this is, okay, do different times for free ads and see what gets more engagement. Yeah, like at the end of the day, it's testing. Different audiences will have different kind of responses to different things. Like if you're targeting nurses, they're gonna have a very different time just because they work very different hours with their shifts than if you're targeting like people who work a traditional 9 to 5. So I generally, again, I don't worry about time of day, stuff like that. I don't overthink a lot of that stuff. I just keep it simple. I post when I want to post, and I do my thing. It works. Again, it works if you have good content. So in terms of the detail targeting, this is where the majority of people spend way too much time thinking about it. And I'll show you how to, like the different ways we look at adding people here. But kind of the little secret that we do, and it's not so secret because I talk about it a lot now, is majority of our ads, we leave this blank. Because Facebook knows, like if you're doing in the ads manager, we leave it blank. If you're doing boosting, it might be a little different. Because as an example, when you're starting your ad, you can choose, like maybe you just want people to watch your video. That's your entire goal with the ad is I want people to watch this video. There's an objective called video views. Now, Facebook knows which of its users are likely to watch a video. So what you do is you just select optimize for video views, and they're now automatically going to serve it to the people who are likely to watch videos in the area you chose. So again, if I'm using new market as an example, I'm going to choose video views, everyone in new market over a certain age. And that's all the targeting I'll do, because now it's going to serve it to those in new market over that age who are likely to watch the video. And that is way more effective than then trying to play with it. Because like ads are so cheap to get out there that we find that works better. The only piece that we will do here for our agent clients is under exclude people. And I'll show you some of the options. We exclude agents because agents is a waste of your budget. Well, there is some exceptions to that. So we exclude agents for the majority. We have a couple of clients who are team leaders who like to leave agents in because they want other agents to see their lead gen efforts and their branding so that when they go to recruit, they can point to those things as things they're doing for their team to support their team. So sometimes there is that ulterior motive in the ad in including agents. But for the majority of solo agents who are not immediately looking to like go to a team, I would generally leave out agents from seeing your ad, especially if it's lead gen, because a lot of agents will opt in. And like we had as high as 30% of leads one time were just other agents opting in. But yeah, for us, for this, we actually mostly leave it blank. But when we do want it, we go by the 3 Fs. If you've heard me do one of my more in-depth talks before, you've heard me talk about the 3 Fs. It's actually something that's coined by a guy named Nicholas Kuzmich, who's just like one of the top Facebook ad guys in the world. And actually, he's the one who got me this poster behind me if you're seeing me on video right now. It's actually a canvas, not a poster. So the first, or the 3 Fs are follow, frequent, and fun. So we'll go through each one. I'll kind of explain what they are. So number 1, follow. Who are they following? So the way we look at that is like, if I want to target an ad to like entrepreneurs as an example, like entrepreneurs and business owners, who do they follow? So like Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, Elon Musk, like you're looking at those types of like, who is someone that an entrepreneur is likely to follow? And Elon Musk is actually a bad example, and I'll tell you why. But you look at those people and be like, okay, who do they look after? Because like someone who follows Gary Vee might be very different than someone who follows Kim Kardashian. But then you might have even a sub niche of people who follow both. Then you can even choose that. And I'll show you how. You could do like, I want Gary Vee fans who are also Kim Kardashian fans. And then that could work really well. But you have to know your audience for that. So who does your ideal audience follow? And you want to make sure that when you're looking at your ideal clients, that we do what's called famous to the family. So I like to use the example of golf a lot when I give this talk because it's an easy one to understand. So if we're looking at, okay, who do people who are into golf follow? And the reason we don't just use the term golf is because Facebook is not great at actually categorizing those ones. Like you could have read one article one time that just mentioned golf, and now they think you're into golf even though you're not. But if we want to target someone into golf, we're going to be like, we're not going to pick Tiger Woods because he's too big of a name. Like if I just shared right now on Facebook an article about Tiger Woods, we'd get a ton of people reading it who actually don't care about golf. They care about Tiger Woods because he's such a big name. Now, if I switched and shared something about Bubba Watson, unless you're into golf, you're probably not reading that because Bubba Watson is famous to golfers, but no one else. Same like Titleist, TaylorMade, Dustin Johnson. Like you're picking people who are only famous. So like the other great example of this would be like Tom Ferry, the real estate coach. If you're thinking about Tom Ferry, like you could bring Tom Ferry to a real estate conference, people get excited, he's huge, everyone knows who he is, he's like a celebrity in that room. He walks out the room, starts walking down the street, what happens? It could be hours before a single person recognizes who he is because he's famous to the family that he works. Tom Ferry's famous to the real estate community. The general population, generally speaking, has no idea who Tom Ferry is. So when you're looking at who's my ideal client, who do they follow that's famous to their family? And that's how you choose that. Next one, frequent. Where are they spending their time? This could be in person or online. I normally generally look at online because they're easier to target. So are they reading, like are they going to Vogue.com or Architectural Digest or TO Blog or Toronto Life? Where are they spending that time? ESPN, Vanity Fair. Where are they spending that time? And you can target them that way. Again, you want to be as specific as you can instead of just doing like health and beauty as an example. The more specific you can get, the better your ads will be. You can also even do this for like newspapers. So I know in like Toronto as an example, the Toronto Star is a big enough newspaper that you can actually just target people who read the Toronto Star. So instead of spending a lot of money to advertise in the Star, you can just target the Star readers on Facebook for like 5% of what you'd be charged to put an ad in the newspaper. So there's some pretty easy ways to do it. And the last one, fund, is pretty simple. Where do they spend their money? I just like to use the example of like, are they Tim Hortons or Starbucks? Different people go to each one. Who's your ideal client? And go that route. So those are the ways that when we're doing interest-based targeting that we choose who we're going after, is the follow, frequent, fund method. So here's an example. Say I wanted to run an ad targeting real estate agents. I'm just using that as an easy example because you're all real estate agents, so it resonates more. So say again, we want to do real estate agents who are fans of Gary Vaynerchuk. And then what we've done is we said, and they must also be into Buffini, Inman News, Aria, Rico, Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry. And so what we've done here is we've made it so, okay, there are Gary Vee fans who also are any of that group. Because if we put them all in the same grouping there, a lot of Gary Vee fans aren't agents, so we can't lump them together. We have to say they're a Gary Vee fan and they're this group. And then what I've also done here is I've also added, and then must also match business page admin or Facebook page admin. So I can get really specific. So like if someone is into Gary Vee, is into all those real estate things, and then is also an admin of a business page, that's a very specific group of people that now I know I can target with my ad. And like the reason I'll use this one is Gary Vee often just says, if you're not doing Facebook ads, you're an idiot. Like he's very blunt. It's great for my business when he says that. So when I know he's speaking at a real estate conference, I'm doing a targeting exactly like this. Again, because I know the people that I'm going after, which, well, it's you guys. But look at that way. Like, who do you know? Like, how well do you know them? What do you know about them? And how can you think about their behavior and put it in here? And then excluding, when you're running your ad to exclude agents, you just take those interests I was talking about and you put them in here. But again, you have to be really specific about like, what would an agent be into that no one else would be? So like you wouldn't put business page admin under the exclusions, because then you're basically taking out everyone who has admin of a business page, whether it's a real estate page or not. So you can't put that in here. Another example is like DocuSign. A ton of agents use DocuSign, but so do a lot of other businesses. So you can't put DocuSign because it's not specific to real estate, but you could put Dotloop because Dotloop is a real estate specific e-signature option. So you really want to make sure you're going to that specific one. If there's any questions about that, let me know. But exclusions, we just go agents. And the last piece here, it's a little checkbox under this part, and it's expand your detailed targeting to reach more people when they think it's going to improve the performance. We do not check this. The reason for, if all we've done is age, location, and exclude agents, if we check that, they're basically just going to take out the part where we're excluding agents and allow agents to see it too. So that's why we leave that unchecked. If we have a lot of targeting, you just want to think about like, okay, if this ad was shown to people who weren't this targeting, would that change anything for me? And that will give you an answer. But because most of our ads we recommend, the majority of ads is just age, location, and exclude agents, I wouldn't touch this otherwise. I would leave this unchecked the majority of the time. And then under that, there is an option. So you can run an ad to people who like your page, friends of people who like your page, or exclude people who like your page. Generally, I would never run an ad to exclude people who like your page. Even if, say, and I hate page-like campaigns, but for the sake of argument, even if you want to run an ad to get people to like your page, I still wouldn't exclude people who like your page, for the main reason that when you run ads to people who already know you, they engage. They're more likely to engage. The more people who engage with it, the more Facebook thinks it's good, and now you have that social proof built onto the ad itself. So often, like as an example, what we'll do with some of our campaigns is we will run an ad specifically to those on a retargeting basis for the first 24 hours, because we know those are the ones likely to engage, get them to engage, then layer on the campaign after that 24 hours to people who are like the wider community, because now they're going to see the ad with engagement already, if that makes sense to you guys. Because most people don't want to be the first comment or the first engagement outside of like a niche group of people who find it fun to be the first comment and try to write first. But most real estate ads, that's not going to be a thing. But that's the only time we do that. Friends of people who like your page, that's should be all the information you need to know to never like another agent's page. Because if you like another agent's page, they can literally just run an ad to people who like yours. This is also an interesting way to get around the ability to, you can't target your friends list. Start a blank business page and then be the only person who likes it, and then run an ad to everybody, and then select friends of people who like your page. And now this ad will run from this like shadow business page only to your friends list. It's not a necessarily long-term, because I'm sure at some point Facebook will just stop you from doing that. And you have to do low budget ads that way, because if you start a brand new page and then immediately pump a bunch of money into ads, that's like a trigger that it might be fraud, and they'll shut the account down normally. So like if you're going to do that method of like start a shadow page, be the only one who likes it, and then run ads to friends of people who like your page, keep the budget under like $5 a day at the beginning. And then if you want to go up from there, just by increments of about like 10, 15, 20%. But most people, because like the friend list limit's 5,000, even $5 a day, you'll be fine. That's enough to reach them pretty consistently. To be clear, I don't actually do that, but it's some way that you could do it, because we do get that question quite a bit of how can I target ads to my friend list? Right now, that's the only workaround. In terms of budgeting, so you remember the beginning when I showed you the audience reach piece? So budgeting, how we look at it roughly, is $10 a day per 100,000 people. This is for ongoing ads. So if it's an ongoing ad and we're like, I'm putting up this ad to generate leads, I'd like it to run as long as possible, $10 a day per 100,000 people, that generally speaking is going to give you the most. We can get like a lot more into the weeds on this maybe another time, but to me, it's just the most effective is $10 a day per 100,000. And then we get this question a lot, pixels and custom audiences. So I want to go into that a bit before we wrap up. This is, again, a little bit more the advanced side of Facebook targeting, but really, really effective. So when you're in the Ads Manager in the top left, you'll see it says Ads Manager. There's the thing they call the hamburger just to the left of it, the 3 horizontal lines. When you click that, it brings it down this piece. You click on All Tools, and it slides the thing across the screen. If you've never set up the Facebook pixel, you go to the pixel one, and then you can get it installed. You just follow the instructions. Just send your pixel to whoever manages your website and say, put this on my website. They will know how. If they don't, you need a new website person. Is there a way to check whose business pages we have liked so we can remove ourselves so they can't target our friends? Yes, if you go to your personal page, go into settings, and you'll be able to see, or in your about, like, I'll have to double check exactly where, because I haven't done it in a while. You can go in and check what you're being targeted or which pages you like. Does the pixel need to only be put on the page once or for each ad, also just the home page or every page of the site? So each ad account gets 1 pixel. So most of you will only have 1 pixel because you only have 1 ad account. You only need to put it on your website once. And if you put it between the header tags, and again, if you don't know what that means, your website person will, that will put it on every page of the site automatically. To me, I want it on every single page. The only exception is at like maybe a brokerage level. If we have, because a lot of brokerages, their websites are kind of doing double duty. It's half to the consumers, half to recruit agents. And those are 2 very different audiences. So you would want the like consumer pixel on the consumer pages and the agent pixel on the agent pages, if that makes sense. For the majority of you, I have 1 pixel every page. Do you do this for agents? Yes, we do. You can just message me after. I'm happy to chat with you about that. So yeah, you don't have to worry, like 1 pixel everywhere, you're good to go. And even if you can get it on other people's sites, there's a lot of value there. Like think about locally, like if there's a gym you go to a lot, message the gym. Like LA Fitness won't do it, but if there's like a CrossFit gym, it's like 1 guy, be like, hey, I'll give you an extra, $50, put this piece of code on your site. You can now run ads to anyone who goes to that site. And you're like, hey, I want to work with people who do CrossFit. Easy way to do it. Doesn't cost them anything. You can give them a couple bucks. A lot of them will allow that. But you should ask. And they have to update their privacy policy that they're reselling the data. So in terms of what you can do, and when you're under the audience section, you have custom lookalike. Don't worry about the special ad audience. Pardon me. So in terms of custom audience, and I'll get to lookalike after, your options are website. So anyone who's been to your website, and that's changing, which I'll mention in a few minutes. So on a website, the base is just anyone who's been on the website. If you want to get on the advanced side, you can start doing like people who've been on this page and this page and this page, or you can be like people who've been to this page but not this page. Like you can get really advanced, and you can start doing things like people who've been on my website in the last 7 days, people who've been in the last 30 days, 90 days. If you want to get really advanced, you can be like, if you show up on my website today, see these ads for 3 days, and then days 4 to 7, you see these ads, days 7 to 12, you see these ads. You can start getting into that advanced stuff, but for most of you, don't worry about that yet. Just do like the proper targeting with your initial ads. And then if you're getting to a point where you're spending, say, $1,000 a month or more on ads, that's when you might get into that like really finicky style ads of like this page went up this page with timing and all that fun stuff. Customer file there, upload your database to Facebook. It'll take the name, email, and phone number of your database, match it to accounts on Facebook, and now you can run an ad to your database. With consumers, most agents, we find it's about a 60 to 70% match rate. And then you'll be able to just target your database. That's a really cheap way to run ads to stay in front of your database. Like most of your database is so small, you go to $1 or $2 a day and run it to your database. App activity and offline, don't worry about it. And then the Facebook sources, that's just exactly what it sounds. You can run ads to anyone who watched your videos, and you can choose 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 25%, 50%, 75%, or 95%. So based on how much of your videos they watched, you choose which ads they see. People who got gone to your Instagram profile, you're engaged with your Facebook page, or lead forms. And I'm going to show you in a minute why the Facebook sources are actually going to be the most important thing very, very soon. And that is because the death of the pixel. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. So Safari and I believe Firefox have already blocked third-party cookies. So that means on some browsers, the Facebook pixel's already not being fired, and the website browsers are not allowing their users to be tracked. There's privacy violations, like it makes sense, but they just don't do it. And what happened though is Google Chrome, which is 70% of web traffic, announced that by 2022, they're also gonna stop all third-party tracking software to be able to be tracked. So that means that 2022, the majority of web traffic, you can't retarget from your website. And that's why Facebook retargeting is gonna be so much more valuable. So if you look at the bottom in here, like people who watched your videos, lead forms, Instagram profile, Facebook engagement, those people, you can still target because it's not a third-party system. Facebook has the data because it's on their own site. They don't need a third party to send them data. So once that change happens in 2022, which I know is a little bit away, but you might want to start just thinking about like, okay, I'm going to need engagement if I'm relying on retargeting. That retargeting is going to have to come from sources that are on Facebook or Instagram or a Facebook-owned platform. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're doing website-based retargeting. In the relatively near future, that won't be an option anymore unless Facebook figures out a way around it. They got time, they got some smart people. You never know. Then lookalike audiences, these are generally the most effective for targeting investors. What we like about lookalike audiences is basically it takes the audience you picked and then finds the people who are most like them. So the easiest example would be take your database, upload it to Facebook as a custom audience, and then tell Facebook, find me the 1% of people in Canada or whichever country you choose who are most similar to my past clients. So what they'll do is they'll analyze all your past clients' personal profiles and then find the 1% of people who are the most similar to them. So now the ad's going to run to people who are most like those you've worked with in the past. I love lookalike audiences for that. If you have a big enough database of investors, this is the easiest way to target them. In terms for us, like when we're looking at ranking, like retargeting is number 1 for effectiveness, lookalike number 2, interest-based number 3. But we like this a lot. So if anytime we're doing like anything like that, we go with lookalike. If you do want any ongoing help with any of this stuff, we do have a community where you can come in. Like, so there's the free Wheelhouse group. I know a lot of you are in it. If you're not, it's free. You can join that. We go a lot into like what to do. So like, here's strategies that work. And we answer your questions. But we have another group called the Wheelhouse Elite. And that's where it's like, we will get into the nitty gritty of how to do it. Our whole team's in there. We'll help you guys do it. So if you basically want like this type of webinar, but you have access to like this type of content every single day, get any questions you want answered, plus our entire course on Facebook ads, that's called the Wheelhouse Elite. It is $100 a month or $1,000 for the year. Since you're on this webinar, I'll give you, there is a coupon code. If you just put Elite 40, it drops the price to $60 a month or $600 for the year. So if you go to wheelhouseelite.com, I'm not going to do a hard pitch on this. It's only if you like think like, yes, I would like that ongoing help so I can do it myself. I don't want to do a hard pitch for you guys. We only want people in there who are going to engage. They can benefit from that type of help. It's not for everyone. There's no commitment unless you pay for the year. But if you just go month to month, you just be in it for as long as you find it valuable. Again, we're not going to do a hard sell on this. So wheelhouseelite.com if you're interested. Promo code ELITE40 will get you 40% off. And that's going to be as long as I have this video up. So if this video ever goes down, it means that offer is gone. Otherwise, what time is it? It's 1:55. So I do have a call in 10 minutes. So I'll stick around for about 5 minutes if you guys have any questions. So if you guys let me know any questions you have, I'm happy to stick around. Can we repost a helpful how-to video that is not organic? What do you mean by that? So in terms of like a paid ad, so you created a paid ad. This is what I'm guessing you mean. So you created a paid ad, uploaded the video to the paid ad, but now you want that to become an organic post, correct? Oh, a bank has some great info videos. So you would have to share their post. If it's not organic, you'd have to just, when it shows up in your feed, then share it from there. Okay, so I like to have a one-on-one call. Okay, yeah, so Dave, just shoot me a message. If you actually just go to bookandrew.ca, it'll option. So anyone who wants to just talk to us about hiring us exclusively, again, I'm not gonna do a hard sell here, bookandrew.ca takes you to my booking link, and you can just book a time in with me. I'm pretty swamped this week, but next week I have a little bit of time, but then February I'm pretty wide open. If none of those times work for you, shoot me an email, and I'll get someone on my team who can call sooner. But I'm just, this week and next week, I'm a little bit busy. It opens up in February. What is your take on objectives like lead gen, traffic, and engagement? So on that side, it's literally exactly what it's saying. What's your objective with the ad? If your objective is like, I want just people to go and read my blog post, you'd pick traffic. If you want leads, you pick lead gen. If you want people to comment, but not necessarily become leads, or comment, like, and engage, but not necessarily go to a website, you'd pick engagement. So it's just entirely dependent on what your goal is. You just pick the goal that is like what your ultimate one is. So if you would rather, all I want is leads, you pick lead gen. If all you want is send people to a website, you pick traffic. If you just want people to watch your video, pick watch video views. Please send me info to hire a company to do this for me. justsellhomes.com. All the info's there. Or you can reach out to me personally, Andrew@justsellhomes.com. If that's for us to do it for you. If you want to do it yourself with our help, wheelhouseelite.com. That'll show you everything, and we really dive deep in there. But again, it's only if you think that you'll go on and engage. We don't want people just going to come and like sit there and just kind of look around. We want people engaged who will actually get something out of it, because we put a lot of time and we put a lot of effort into making it as valuable as possible. And so we want people in there who will take advantage of it. See if there's any other questions that I might have missed. Let's see. Looks like we're good. Tracking the ad analytics. So there's two pieces to that, tracking the ad analytics. Like, yes, you want to know, is like my cost per click low? And yes, bookandrew.ca, yes, that's the link, bookandrew.ca. But for ad analytics, look at it from that perspective of, yes, like cost per click, you want it to obviously be under $1. Obviously, like under 50 cents is even better. If you're over $1, you're probably doing something wrong, unless it's some really niche thing. But at the end of the day, it's like, what's my objective? Is my objective leads? Then I don't care about any other objective but leads. Like, we had a client who's getting $40 a lead, but they are really high quality leads. So for him, he can ignore the fact that that's a really expensive lead. So at the end of the day, like, before you look at the ad analytics, those are just like, if your ad's not getting the desired result you want, whether that's phone calls, leads, higher quality leads, they're just things that'll help point you to which piece of it's not working. So we do track analytics quite a bit, but we also want to look at our desired end result, because sometimes like a high cost per lead, that's still good, or sometimes a high cost per click is worth it if it's a really high quality click. But if our goal is just send as many people as possible, then obviously we just want to bring that lower. But I can do a whole other thing on ad analytics. Is there any more questions? I'm happy to stick around and answer a few more if you guys have any. All right, doesn't look like any are coming through. So again, thanks guys for joining today. I'm gonna do more of these. So please feel free to send me a message with what topics you'd like to see in the future. I'm very happy to do anything you guys want. We're gonna try and do about one of these a month, roughly speaking. And then we'll go from there. So we're just gonna try it as an example and see how many people find it valuable, but I like doing these, and I mean, I actually genuinely enjoy this because I like to be a nerd. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll let you guys know about the next one. And then if you're not in the free Wheelhouse, join that. You can get a lot of great info in there, all your questions answered. And if you want that extra hands-on help from our entire team, plus a lot of extra perks, which you can see at the website, wheelhouseelite.com, and then use ELITE40 coupon code to get 40% off. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.